Hi guys, this lecture will focus on unemployment and its effect on living standards. Now with all the other lectures that we've done on unemployment, we're going to focus on how full employment can affect living standards, and then focus on how high unemployment can affect living standards. I'm going to break this up into two separate categories. So we know that living standards can be broken up into material and non-material. We're going to do a little bit of a graph here. Okay, so here we have material, and then we'll have non-material on the other side. So as we should know by now, living standards are the general or overall well-being that we have from being in an economy. So we know that material living standards relate to the ability for us to consume goods or services and to satisfy our needs and wants. And obviously when we have full employment, it means we have a steady income. At full employment, it means national income is high also. And it also means that production levels are high. And all this leads back to the idea that more goods and services are being consumed. So when you have a steady job, when the economy is at full employment, consumer confidence is high, we're less likely going to save, more likely going to have a higher income and therefore more likely to spend. And as businesses, if we come back to the circular flow, as businesses produce more goods and services, that means we have more goods and services to consume. And so, therefore, material living standards are we're very well off materially. We can have two different arguments, however, for non-material living standards though. We can talk about job satisfaction. And most people have a very personal alignment with their jobs. They take great esteem and a sense of being from who they are, from where their jobs are. So when they have jobs, it means it gives them a purpose in life. It fulfills all the non-material living standards, aspects of their living standards, such as self-actualization, their esteem, being around with co-workers, having friends, and having a goal in life. So that's a tick to the non-material aspects of living standards with full employment. But however, it also means when the economy is beyond full employment, or when it is at very low unemployment, it also might mean that we're overworked and stressed, and also means we might be polluting the environment with overproduction, and therefore in this case it would be bad for our non-material living standards. So that's why the government seeks to achieve this idea of full employment, where workers aren't being overworked, we're not overly adding to pollution of the environment, we're not being overwhelmed by our work, and we're leading a very satisfactory and reasonable standard of living. So that's this idea falling behind full employment. So full employment is very good in that it helps satisfy all the needs and wants, because we're producing more, we're consuming more, we have a greater income, and also we have greater job satisfaction, we have greater self-esteem, awareness of the society, and a greater sense of being of who we are as we have a job and as we have a purpose in life. So full employment is very good to satisfy or to maximize our living standards. On the other hand, when we have high unemployment, it means we have a relatively low national income, fewer jobs, low production, and which subsequently means fewer goods and services being consumed. And as we know, material living standards have a direct influence, are directly influenced, I should say, by the consumption of goods and services. Because we're unemployed, because we're relying on welfare payments to satisfy our needs and wants, we're not going to be able to satisfy as many needs and wants as we had before when we were on our factor incomes. So as we talked about before, the average welfare payment is around $240 to $290 per week, whereas the average full-time worker is getting paid around $1,250 a week. So now we can see the vast difference between the material satisfaction that we can get from between full employment and being unemployed. So this is bad for material living standards. High employment is bad for material living standards. Similarly, we're going to see that when we don't have a job, we have no sense of purpose in life. We're going to have very little to do at home. We're not contributing to the community, contributing less to the community. And as research has shown, is highly correlated with esteem issues. So when we don't have a job, we're going to have a very low self-esteem, and therefore our material living standards are going to be deteriorated. So you can also run the argument, wait, what if we have now longer or greater leisure time? But what's the use of our leisure time if we have so much of it and we don't have the money to satisfy the material aspects of our living standards? So take for example, if you have if you don't have a job and you have the whole day to do whatever you want, that process could effectively get monotonous, and therefore you might get sick of having nothing to do all day. So even if you don't have a job, some people may run the argument of saying our non-material living status may actually improve because we have greater leisure time, and therefore because we're employing fewer people, therefore production goes down, and so that runs the argument of less pollution to the economy or to the environment. But that argument ultimately falls short because our material living standards are also directly linked. Sorry, our non-material living standards are directly linked with our material living standards. In that, even though we might not have a job, we have a lot of leisure time. We need money to actually fund for our leisure activities. So what's the use of having money but no leisure time? Can be same as say what's the use of having a lot of leisure time but no money to spend on it? So as we can see, high employment is very bad for the economy, both materially and non-materially to our living standards. Okay, so we talked about full employment and high unemployment. So unemployment and living standards have a very inverse relationship, in that when unemployment is high, our living standards are generally very low. And when unemployment is low, when the nation's moving towards full employment, then generally our living standards are very high, both materially and in the non-material aspects of our living standards. Okay.